Welcome everyone to my presentation where I'm going to be talking about how we can deliver and measure automation ROI. So let's start it off with some of the common problems that I see. The first one is the mission is super vague. These may be good things, but they are very vague. It's very difficult to be able to help or provide guidance when I have no idea what automating your website would look like. People say that you can't measure the ROI of quality or testing. Then I would ask right back, so how are you actually showing the value that you're providing then? Because saying I can't makes me really nervous as a manager, because that means that you can't articulate or visualize your success. And if you can't do that, then I don't want to invest time and money into you then. Next up is measuring the wrong things. Once you tell them you can measure ROI, then immediately they start thinking, well, then what can I measure? And immediately, oh my goodness, it goes right into vanity metrics and status reports. These kinds of metrics may be helpful, but by themselves, they're vanity metrics. So what is a vanity metric? Vanity metrics are measurements that may look good, but they fail to provide any clear guidance or actions to improve. So how do I start then? Well, a lot of this is context dependent, but there is a process that you can take to help you do things the right way, deliver the right solutions for the right problems. So first off is our mission. In automation engineering, the single most important thing is for us to accelerate and visualize quality. Keep this in mind as we continue with the next steps here in this process, because anything that isn't helping accelerate or visualize quality is not providing any sort of insight or any sort of intelligence for the team to take actions on. We want to accelerate quality because that's what's ultimately impacting the business. If we can get things out the door to our customers much sooner and with more reliability, then that is us directly impacting the bottom line, directly impacting our customers and adding value to the business as well. So step one is to identify. We need to investigate and discover decelerators and low quality points. Is automation even the right way to improve this? Because sometimes it's not. Who should be involved in this? Should the entire team be involved? Do we need to bring in UX or design? Do we need to bring in other stakeholders? Who's going to be helping actually implement the solution? Is that only one person? Should we pair with a developer? Who should be involved? Step two is to quantify. Use data to prove it's a decelerator or low quality point. So define a clear problem statement. What is the actual problem you're facing and how are you going to try to solve that problem? Define a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a statement of belief, but with some clear data point in it. And say, if I do this, then I can see that this bridge that we have from D to E, instead of taking a day on average, is going to go down to about an hour instead. It's a very clear data point, a very clear goal, which helps when we're quantifying things. What would success look like? This is the actual value. As you heard me say, the success was from 1 day on average down to 1 hour. So if we got it down to 30 minutes, that would be super success. If we got it down to 2 hours, it would still be a lot better than 1 day, but we would have missed our mark a bit. Next up is, what would failure look like? Is 2 hours okay? We tried to target 1 hour, but we got it down to 2 hours. What actions would you take either way? If you succeed, what happens next? Is it just done? Or is it something you want to continue monitoring or measuring? If you fail, how do you pivot? When do you pivot? When do you decide to jump ship? That's something that you need to define. Step three is to then prioritize. This is very difficult to do if you have not quantified the things you've identified, because otherwise you're shooting in the dark and you don't really know what is higher priority than others. On top of that, we need to prioritize against actual business and tech debt tasks. Prioritize what you've identified in step one. You yourself as a team need to decide, what do we want to do this quarter? We can only fit so much. There's a world to automate. So what do you prioritize first? This provides a lean roadmap for your team. Step 4 is to act and measure. Complete tasks and measure your progress. Seems pretty obvious, right? Now that you've quantified everything and prioritized it, just start moving things to in progress and getting things done. But you also need to measure this, right? So how did your hypothesis actually compare? How did it measure up? Were you able to achieve your definition of success? Why or why not? Were there unexpected blockers or limitations that prevented you from getting there or took you longer? A lot of the time it takes longer than you thought, right? Step 5 is to then learn, then pivot, or persevere. You need to quickly learn and adapt. How could you have foreseen or prevented some of the issues that you ran into? Could it be better collaboration or documentation? Maybe it was because you weren't aware of a dependency, but now that you are, how could you identify these dependencies sooner so then you wouldn't have ran into this blocker or limitation? Would a technique like observability, maybe site reliability engineering and their SLIs, SLOs, and other techniques, maybe even feature flags, would that mitigate this or prevent these issues so then you could have gone faster the first time? This part is important because as you begin to scale your solutions and ideas, you need to get better and faster along with it. Again, we're trying to accelerate quality, not just for our solutions, but for our product and features as well. And so learning these new dependencies, what if we had mapped this originally? What if we had investigated this dependency tree a little more? Would that have sped us up? We'd invest a little bit more time in the beginning, but we wouldn't have spent so much time backing up or pivoting if we had done that first place, right? So you want to make sure you're learning and adapting to this. And then as you scale it out, you use this learning to get faster as you move from team to team and ultimately the rest of the organization. Step 6, which is the last one, is to share your success publicly or internally, not just the stakeholders. Some organizations will do this with an internal blog or even public blog. Some of them will hold like lunch bag meetings or weekly meetings just to kind of share or demo the things that they've done. Take control of the narrative for your team. If you don't do this, someone else is going to be telling your story, guaranteed. It's okay to show off. Sometimes people are shy with this. It's okay to do that. In fact, upper management, we want you to do this because it makes us look really good when we can say, I invested $500,000 into this organization here, or into this team, or these few people, and here's how much they're actually delivering. Here's the impact they're making. Right. All right. With that, everyone, that's it. A nice and quick snippet, but hopefully that gives you a good idea as to some processes you can take. One of the hardest parts, to be honest, is that quantify step, because a lot of us maybe are not familiar with that and how we can gather and collect information and data in order to support and articulate our problem statements, our issues, and prioritize things against the business. But I promise that if you do that, you'll see that not just the value will be there and people will see it, but you're actually going to be working on the right things and solving them the right way, rather than assuming everything is an automation problem, right? Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining and for watching and listening. You can hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn at Carlos Kidman. I would love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of the show. Bye.